Discover how the timeless wisdom of the Bhagavad Gita can guide your investments. The Investment Gita, timeless wisdom for financial success, will teach you discipline, patience, and clarity to create lasting wealth. Brought to you by Beyond the Cover, where we turn powerful books into life-changing lessons. When we speak of wealth, most people think only of numbers, bank balances, and possessions. But true wealth begins in the mind, in the discipline of the soul, and in the clarity of purpose. The Bhagavad Gita, a timeless scripture that has guided humanity for thousands of years, teaches us lessons that go far beyond war and duty. It teaches us how to master ourselves, how to remain steady when storms surround us, and how to take decisions with courage and balance. These are the very qualities an investor needs in today's uncertain world. In the battlefield of life, we are all Arjunas, confused, overwhelmed, and at times afraid of the unknown. And like Arjuna, we look for guidance. Lord Krishna's voice of the Gita echoes across centuries, reminding us that calmness in chaos, patience in uncertainty, and faith in action are the keys to true success. Investment, when seen through this lens, becomes more than just financial planning. It becomes a spiritual discipline, a way of aligning your duty, your patience, and your courage with the long journey of life. The first lesson the Gita gives us is about duty. Krishna tells Arjuna to focus on his dharma, his responsibility, without comparing himself with others or fearing the outcome. In the same way, your financial dharma is not to chase what others are doing, not to get distracted by the glitter of quick riches, but to build your own path. Your duty is to save, to invest, and to protect your future and the future of those you love. When you see your investments as your dharma, you no longer treat them as a burden or a gamble. You treat them with respect, with commitment, and with patience. The Gita then speaks of balance, equanimity in success and failure, in gain and loss. How powerful this is for an investor, because markets will rise and they will fall. Your portfolio will grow, and at times it will shrink. But if your mind is shaken each time, if greed controls you when prices rise and fear destroys you when they fall, then you will always remain a slave to emotions. The wise investor, like the wise seeker, does not get carried away. He stays steady, disciplined, and calm. Success and wealth, as in life, is not about avoiding storms, but about learning how to sail steadily through them. The Gita also tells us to act without attachment to results. Do your duty, but do not cling to the fruits of your actions. For investors, this means sowing seeds regularly, saving consistently, investing systematically, allowing compounding to do its magic without demanding instant results. Just as a farmer does not dig the soil every morning to check if the seed is sprouted, you too must have the patience to let time nurture your investments. Attachment to quick results leads only to frustration, but detachment brings peace and eventual abundance. Knowledge, too, holds a sacred place in the Gita. Krishna reminds us that wisdom is the greatest purifier, and it is through knowledge that confusion turns into clarity. In the same way, an investor must learn before leaping. Blind speculation is ignorance. Wisdom is knowing what you own, why you own it, and how it fits into your journey. The stock market is not a casino for the disciplined. It is a temple where patience and knowledge create wealth. When you choose to educate yourself, when you understand risks and opportunities, you are walking the path of jnana, the path of wisdom. And then, the Gita teaches detachment from illusion, Maya, the grand deception that blinds us to reality. In today's world, Maya is everywhere in the markets. It comes in the form of rumors, hot tips, flashy advertisements, and get-rich-quick promises. But the wise investor is not seduced by illusions. Detachment does not mean inaction. It means the clarity to act on fundamentals, to ignore the noise, and to remain steady on your chosen path. The Bhagavad Gita also reminds us of balance in all aspects of life. Just as Arjuna was asked to perform his duty without being consumed by extremes, you too must find balance in your financial journey. There's a time to take risk and a time to seek safety. There's a time to spend and a time to save. The investor who leans too heavily on one side, only chasing growth without security, or only clinging to safety without growth, loses harmony. Balance is not weakness. Balance is strength. It is the art of knowing how much is enough, how much should be risked, and how much should be preserved. Just like life, investment demands moderation, not excess. The Gita also speaks of faith. Krishna declares that a person is made by his faith. For what he believes in, he becomes. In investment, faith is the bridge between action and results. Without faith, you abandon your path too soon. Without faith, you doubt every decision, every fluctuation, every movement of the market. But with faith, faith in your discipline, faith in the power of compounding, faith in the plan you have set, you can endure the ups and downs without losing courage. Faith is not blind hope. Faith is clarity combined with patience. It is Shraddha, the deep trust that consistent right action will bear fruit in due time. And then comes courage. The Gita is set on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, where Arjuna hesitates, trembling before uncertainty. But Krishna reminds him that true warriors are not those who never feel fear, but those who act despite it. As an investor, you too face your battlefield. The battlefield of doubt, the battlefield of greed, the battlefield of fear. Sometimes the market collapses and panic surrounds you. Sometimes opportunities arise, but hesitation stops you. And sometimes the noise of the world clouds your mind. In those moments, you must be your own warrior. Courage is not reckless action. Courage is steady decision-making when fear seeks to control you. Remember this. Every market cycle is a battlefield, but every battlefield hides opportunity. When others are fearful, you must stay calm. When others chase greed, you must remain disciplined. This is a warrior spirit of investing, the spirit the Gita calls us to embody, the strength to endure, the patience to wait, and the courage to act. Another teaching the Gita offers is detachment from the fruits of labor, but not detachment from labor itself. In investment, this means you cannot control the outcome of markets, but you can control your effort, your saving habit, your asset allocation, and your patience. Success is not in controlling the uncontrollable, but in mastering what lies within your grasp. Control your spending, control your emotions, control your discipline. Leave the results to time, to compounding, and to the natural flow of markets. The Gita also reveals the truth of impermanence. Everything that rises must eventually fall, and everything that falls has the potential to rise again. Nothing is permanent, and so it is with wealth, markets, and life itself. The wise investor does not panic when the cycle turns against him, because he knows the wheel will turn again. Nor does he become arrogant when fortune favors him, because he knows no success lasts forever. Impermanence, when accepted, brings freedom, and with that freedom comes stability, patience, and a deep sense of peace in the investment journey. And perhaps the greatest teaching of the Gita is inner mastery. For Krishna declares that the mind is both the best friend and the worst enemy. In investing, your success is not determined by the market, but by your own mind. Greed, fear, impatience, overconfidence. These are enemies more destructive than any down-earn. But discipline, clarity, patience, and humility, these are allies more powerful than any bull run. Master your mind, and you master your wealth. Lose your mind, and you lose everything, no matter how much you own. The Gita teaches us that true action is never wasted. Every effort, no matter how small, carries value. In the same way, every small investment matters. A few rupees saved, a few coins invested, a single disciplined habit practiced day after day. These may seem insignificant in the beginning, but they carry immense power over time. Just as a river is formed by countless drops, wealth is built by consistent contributions, not by one sudden stroke of luck. Many people wait for the perfect moment to invest, the perfect scheme, the perfect opportunity. But the truth is this: the perfect moment is now. Just as Krishna told Arjuna to rise and act, you too must rise and act today. Delay is the greatest enemy of growth. Action is the seed of prosperity. And yet, action must be guided by knowledge. The Gita speaks of ignorance as the darkness that blinds the soul, and knowledge as the light that shows the way. In investing, ignorance is costly. It leads to blind risks, to chasing hype, to falling for illusions. Knowledge, however, is liberation. When you study, when you learn about assets, when you understand risk and reward, you free yourself from the chains of doubt. Knowledge makes you independent. Knowledge makes you confident. The investor who learns becomes a master of his path, while the one who refuses knowledge becomes a victim of circumstance. But knowledge alone is not enough. The Gita insists on wisdom, knowledge applied with judgment. An investor may know the market, may understand numbers, but if he lacks wisdom, he may still fall to greed or fear. Wisdom is the ability to step back, to see the bigger picture, to act with patience even when the world screams for haste. Wisdom is knowing when to buy, when to hold, and when to walk away. Wisdom is choosing not just profitable investments, but suitable investments, investments that align with your goals, your values, and your dharma. Knowledge fills the mind, but wisdom guides the heart. Together, they create mastery. Another truth the Gita reveals is the importance of selfless action. Do your work without selfish obsession. Says Krishna, for selfishness blinds the soul. In investing, selfishness appears as greed, an endless hunger for more, and more. But greed has no limit, and the more it grows, the more it consumes peace. Wealth without peace is poverty in disguise. The wise investor learns to be content, to aim not for endless accumulation, but for enough. Enough to live with dignity, enough to serve family, enough to fulfill responsibilities, and enough to contribute to the world. True wealth is not in what you hoard, but in what you can live peacefully with. The Gita also calls us to surrender. Surrender not in weakness, but in strength. It asks us to place trust in the higher order of life, to accept that not everything lies within our control. For the investor, this surrender means trusting time, trusting discipline, trusting the laws of compounding. It means not fighting against every fluctuation, not trying to control the uncontrollable, but surrendering to the process you have committed to. Surrender is not laziness. It is faith in the larger design. You act, you plan, you discipline yourself, and then you let go of anxiety. This is surrender. This is freedom. And above all, the Gita reminds us of purpose. Arjuna was not asked to fight for personal gain, but for a cause larger than himself. Likewise, investment is not only about personal wealth. It is about building a secure life for your family, contributing to society, and creating freedom for yourself so that you may serve higher purposes. Wealth is not the end. It is the means to knowledge, to service, to fulfillment. When you see money as a servant and not as a master, you gain true mastery over life. Purpose transforms wealth from mere numbers into a source of meaning. The Bhagavad Gita teaches that the greatest battle is not fought outside, but within, for the mind can either be your best friend or your worst enemy. In investing, this truth is powerful. It is not the market that defeats most people. It is their own impatience, their own fear, their own greed. A rising market tempts them to abandon discipline. A falling market forces them to abandon courage. But the one who has mastered his mind is unshaken. He does not celebrate excessively in victory, nor despair endlessly in loss. He knows both are temporary. He knows that his path is long, his purpose clear, and his discipline steady. Mastering your mind is the true victory, greater than any return numbers can give you. The Gita also warns against attachment to illusion. Many people attach themselves not to reality, but to false hope, believing wealth will arrive suddenly, without effort, without discipline, without patience. They are enchanted by the glitter of shortcuts, by the false glow of easy riches. But illusion is a dangerous enemy. In the same way that Maya deceived the seeker, financial illusions deceive the investor. The wise do not fall into the trap of chasing every rumor, every trend, every promise. They stay grounded. They trust fundamentals, and they let time be their ally. Detachment from illusion is not detachment from life. It is freedom from falsehood. Another powerful lesson from the Gita is the law of action. Krishna reminds Arjuna that without action, nothing is achieved. Desire alone is not enough. Prayer alone is not enough. Thought alone is not enough. It is only through action that destiny is shaped. For the investor, this means no amount of planning, no amount of dreaming, no amount of wishing can replace the act of saving, the act of investing, the act of being consistent. You cannot build wealth by thinking about it. You cannot secure your future by only desiring it. You must act, and you must act with discipline. Every small act accumulates. Every step matters. The universe supports those who act. But action as the Gita teaches, must be detached from anxiety. Anxiety comes when we demand instant results, when we wish control outcomes that are beyond us. The Gita frees us from this burden. It says, "Your right is to action, never to the fruits thereof." Imagine the peace of mind this brings to an investor. You no longer live in constant worry about tomorrow's price, tomorrow's profit, tomorrow's loss. You act today, you do your best, and you release yourself from attachment to what happens next. In this detachment lies true freedom, true peace, and true strength. The Gita also highlights the eternal truth of cycles. Day follows night, growth follows decline, and decline leads again to growth. The market, too, is cyclical, and life as well. Accepting cycles is wisdom. Fighting cycles is folly. When you know that every rise will be followed by a fall, and every fall by a rise, you stop reacting blindly. You learn to endure winters knowing that spring is ahead. You learn to celebrate summers with humility, knowing autumn will follow. This understanding of cycles gives you resilience, patience, and clarity. And finally, the Gita emphasizes surrender to the highest self, the surrender of ego. For ego blinds, while humility opens vision. In investing, ego is a dangerous enemy. The ego says, "I cannot be wrong." The ego says, "I know better than the market." The ego says, "I will beat everyone." But humility says, "I will learn." Humility says, "I will adapt." Humility says, "I will accept when I am wrong and correct myself." Humility keeps you grounded, protects you from arrogance, and saves you from destruction. Ego builds castles of sand. Humility builds foundations of stone. The teachings of the Gita do not end with knowledge alone. They lead us toward transformation, toward becoming a person of discipline, balance, and wisdom. For what is the use of knowing if we do not live by it? Krishna's message is clear. Rise, act, and live your dharma with steadiness of mind. For the investor, this means not just learning about wealth, but living the principles that build it. It means showing up every month to save, resisting temptation when greed calls, standing firm when fear strikes, and trusting time as your ally. The path is not easy, but it is simple. Simplicity, discipline, and patience. These are the trinity of financial success. The Gita also reminds us that life itself is an investment. Every choice you make, every habit you build, every decision you take is a seed planted in the soil of time. Some seeds grow quickly, some take years, but all carry the potential to transform your future. The wealth you build is not only in money, but in character, in resilience, in wisdom. Money will serve you only if you master yourself. Without mastery, even abundance becomes a curse. With mastery, even modest means bring peace. Remember that true wealth is freedom. The freedom to live without fear, the freedom to serve those you love, the freedom to walk your path without compromise. This freedom does not come from shortcuts. It does not come from gambling. It does not come from luck. It comes from years of steady effort, from choices aligned with discipline, from the courage to stay on your path even when the world distracts you. The Gita calls this steadiness yoga, union of purpose and action. And when your investment journey becomes an act of yoga, it ceases to be a burden. It becomes a meditation. And what about the end goal? The Gita teaches us that the soul seeks not endless accumulation, but fulfillment. So too must you see your financial journey. Do not chase wealth for the sake of ego, for comparison, or for illusion. Instead, see it as a means to live fully, to serve greatly, and to leave behind a legacy of wisdom. Money in itself has no meaning. It gains meaning when it is used to uplift, to secure, to enlighten. When you treat money as a servant of purpose, it will never enslave you. So rise now, like Arjuna did, with clarity in your heart. Do not let confusion, fear, or hesitation stop you. Your battlefield may not be Kurukshetra, but it is no less real. It is the battle against procrastination, against distraction, against self-doubt. And just as Arjuna was called to act, you too are called to act today. Begin where you are with what you have. Every step counts. Every decision matters. Plant the seeds now. Nurture them with patience. Protect them with discipline. And watch as time turns them into abundance. The wisdom of the Gita is eternal. It tells us that duty is action, discipline is strength, knowledge is light, patience is power, and surrender is peace. When these truths guide your financial journey, success is not a question of if, but only of when. Let the Gita be your guide. Let discipline be your path, and let purpose be your destination. In wealth as in life, the one who remains steady, detached, and courageous always triumphs. This is the Investment Gita, not just a guide for markets, but a guide for life itself. Take its wisdom, live by it, and watch as both your wealth and your spirit rise the heights you once thought impossible. Thank you for listening. Remember, true wealth comes not just from money, but from discipline, patience, and purpose. Let the wisdom of the Investment Gita guide your journey and take your first step toward lasting financial freedom today.